So, hi, Nikita. This is a short video on the tax that is called employee lock verification. So, the main task is to check if the people who are red are able to clock in. If they are able to clock in, that means our lock system is not working right. So, the first part is to go first to the area of the log. So that means you go to the human resource first, and then you start with their um, employee credentials, and then it's loading their employee credential here, and then you go through a few of the credential here, and as we go through here, uh, we can see that there's not much of red, but the issue is that if we find a place that is red, we have to make sure if the person is able to clock in. So as you can see, there is a nurse called Halima. There's a nurse here who is missing a credential here, and I think it is the CPR is missing. We just want to see if she was able to clock in at work. We remember that Halima is working for um, Jean. You just want to check at Jean to see if she was able to clock in. So this is one of the areas to check. One other important part is to check the e-learning dashboard. So when we open the e-learning dashboard, we want to see those who are red and who were able to clock in. So that means we were able to make the timesheet green. So we noticed that Doreen has a red on EMR system. Normally, she's supposed to be blocked. So, and the job is to check if the block is working. And we also have Flora, who probably working. We never did it. And again, Halima was working at Jean, and her stuff are green. And the same with Helen Iyere. She should not be allowed to clock in any place because she hasn't done her education, but apparently she's able to do it. And the job of today is just to go through the system and see those who are red and then take a note of if they are able to clock in. And that is honoring here who are red but we're able to clock in. Now we can check, for example, for the nurse called Helen Iherin, for example, uh, um, we will just I will just check to see. I just logging on the system, and then just go to the EMR, and then from the EMR, I just need to I just need to go to the client area, and then okay, let me just get here on the client area. So on there, I will just check if that Helen, and that is what you check after looking if they are red. You go to the client. I imagine that Helen and I think Sandeep can also see where the people work to see if they're able to clock in. So, but I believe that she work for Sandy Sutton, and then you just go to verify by going to the timesheet, and then you open the calendar, for example. So you see that normally she should be black because she hasn't completed her education. And the same with Halima, who is missing the CPR. She should not be able to work. But the problem we have, and that is where we are verifying, is that we're going to check a little bit. I think she did some here. Let me see. And then we have to see if she was able to clock in that Helen. I think I just want to make sure she is somewhere here. Let me see. She should be either here or the other place here. Okay, yeah, this is Helen here, right here, in this area. She's able to clock in normally where um, she hasn't done any education. So these are the area where you will just take note of it and also notify Sandeep and try to work to understand or to reinforce the lock so that nobody without education or with missing anything should be able to clock in. Let's go to Jean because Halima is missing also almost everything. So when we go to Jean, so we you just go again the timesheet, but I just give example, but you're gonna go through all of them to check it out. When you see them red, you check to see if they're able to clock in, and you can also find where they work, and then see a little bit. In Jane, we're gonna see if Halima was able to clock in. If she was able to clock in, that means we have to fix the somehow you have to notify Sandeep so that it could be corrected. So this is at Halima here. At this point, she hasn't clocked in, which means that maybe the system is working, and which is good because it has to be read. But here she was able to clock in, so that means that she's normally not allowed to clock in without a completed education, and then the job is just to find those people, and then she doesn't have CPR, so she was not able to clock in to be green without that. She's also green here, also here, and in other areas. So that means that we got some problems there. So we also have people who are care manager and who were able to clock in. For example, we have when we open the care manager area, the client area, and this is also another part of the job of today, is to see the patient credentials. So when you open the patient credential, um, you see that there are some client here. I will see David Houston maybe, but David Houston is no more there. But um, there's a client called Jeffrey Scholes where I think Baldwin is the care manager. And if this client is expired, Baldwin is not supposed to be able to clock in even when he works on the field for Jeremy. So, and the way it looks, there are also other areas that are expired for the client. For example, for some of them have, for Jeffrey here, his general assessment is also expired. And you also have some other, many of them have some areas here that are expired. For example, for Cynthia here, the medication management expired, and it's I think it's Andy was the care manager. So, but Baldwin, for example, he left that client credential red. That means if he works on the field or as a care manager, he cannot clock in. But the problem is that when you go uh, to see Baldwin, for example, I'll come back here. When you go to bouldering work for Jeremy, and then you can see that if you look at the timesheet, and also want to add that bouldering has other problems also. Um, if you go to the employee credential, um, and then he has his office manager credential, and then he has, for example, the compliance credentials, and you can see that his compliance credential has a lot of red on it. So he's not supposed to be able to put his time in, anything green in the system. So there are many other examples of that, that you part of your work for the day. But you can see that Baldwin worked for Jeremy. Um, but if you see his timesheet on the calendar, so and then on the calendar, his timesheet is so Baldwin timesheet has been green throughout. He about to clock in and clock out everywhere, and then his stuff are all red. So that means we have the system is not working, and today's job is to find those who are red and check if they can clock in. The final part also, which is a part of the job, is to check now the manager credentials. The manager credentials, as you can see here, they are that. And then I can give you just one more example, which is, for example, the residential care credentials. And then you can see the Baldwin is still red, and Janet also, she should be locked in because she works at Sandy. If this credential goes red, like today's getting red, you can see it's yellow. In just a few minutes, you're gonna get red. If that thing gets red, she should not be able to clock in or out, like, to do her clocking at her client where she's working. But we also have to check the timesheet and the manager timesheet here. So if somebody is red, you just go to the office manager timesheet and to see if the person can clock out in and out. So, and what we can see here is that we have some people that are able to clock in and out. I think they are very good, all of them. But we have to check maybe for Maria because she may have one credential, and them also probably have some client credential that I read. She will not do that. And I think the rest is pretty much good. But we have to check it here to make sure they are able to clock in and clock out. So this is pretty much what the job is to check first on credentials and to see manager credential, employee credential for all employees, and a lot on education credential to see those who are red. Now you go check all the timesheets to see if they're able to clock in everywhere. If they are able to clock in, you're gonna write the name of the person, the shift, on the place they were able to clock in, and then you're gonna send a report or communicate or work with Sandeep to investigate and see why they were able to clock in. So the job is to make sure the lock works perfectly for everybody. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay.